So my four-time great-grandmother married Joseph Smith. I don't know how much I want to interject here of some family drama, but I'm going to be open about this because I think it's important to the story. I think that because I kind of had that guard down, when you go knock on doors, I mean, people are going to tell you you're going to hell. But I would read them and I would just say like somebody is definitely lying to me. Like this
What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today I have a friend joining me. He's a dear brother in Christ who grew up in the LDS church, but ended up leaving just a few years ago. And now God has called him to host a podcast called Jesus for Mormons. Many times when people leave the LDS church, they feel a little unsure of where to turn to and often spend some time in a place of anger, bitterness, and resentment as a result of being burned by religion. One thing my friend Kai really hopes to offer is a more joyful alternative that has a little bit of a softer landing as he explains his journey out of the LDS church and into the arms of Christ. And that's what we're going to be going over today. Kai, thanks for joining us today, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Before we get started, is there anything you would like to mention?
No, I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited for the opportunity to share my story and hopefully be able to reach more people and hopefully have it land on the right people that need to hear the message and kind of hear my journey, maybe a little condensed from kind of how I'm telling it right now. And I appreciate that opportunity.
Sweet. So let's jump right in. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about where you grew up and what your religious upbringing was like?
All right. So I grew up north of Seattle, just like 30 minutes north of Seattle in a place called Lake Stevens. Loved where I grew up, loved all of my youth leaders growing up. I mean, people who put in a ton of time to try to help people develop in the Mormon Church. My background in the Mormon Church goes way, way, way back. So my four-time great-grandmother married Joseph Smith. And then when Joseph Smith was killed, she married Brigham Young and had kids by him. And that's where my line comes through.
All the way at the beginning. Wow.
All the way at the beginning on my dad's side. On my mom's side were Mormon pioneers who came over, came west and did that into the Salt Lake Valley. So definitely go way, way back. But anyways, I grew up in north of Seattle town, Lake Stevens. We grew up religiously going to church. I mean, I guess there's a pun there, but we grew up going to church every single Sunday, never missed. I went through all of the stuff. So I got baptized at 8. I got the priesthood at 12. I was in tons of presidencies. I think that would resonate with a lot of people, like being in the deacons quorum presidency, teachers, priests. At age 17, I actually met my now wife and I baptized her into the church. So that was, I get extra points for that, extra works. Come on, let's go. So I baptized her into the church, graduated from seminary, at the same time as high school. I was also an athlete. So this is a shout out to all the wrestlers out there. I wrestled at Lake Stevens and, won a state title. That's one of my really happy accomplishments as a high school athlete. You probably don't need to add that in, but anyways, that's kind of what type of person I was, kind of ambitious and young and getting after it. I did a semester at BYU, Idaho, which I thought was pretty. That's in a terrible location. Okay. I'm just going to be honest. Sorry. I have family that lives out there. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Okay. I didn't have a car. Kind of a rough place to be, but anyways, I went to BYU, Idaho, came home, went on a mission at 19, served in the Missouri St. Louis mission, and yeah, I did that. So that's kind of my background.
Hmm.
In
So
that
pretty
respect.
orthodox, right?
Yeah, yeah. My parents would like go to the temple every Friday night and do, date night in that way.
Mhm.
Um, my parents are both still fully practicing. They are great people. My brother is fully practicing, and my sister, also, good people, good honorable people. So there's four of us. Two of us are out, and two of us. So two of us are out of the Mormon Church, and two of them are still in.
Mhm.
That's kind of my family background.
And what are some things that you can maybe appreciate about your LDS upbringing?
I think there's a really strong sense of community within the Mormon Church that I think is, all the same people. It's kind of strange to see someone new really walk in the door, right? It's like this family sits on the second row, this family sits on the fifth row, on the left. There's just that. There's a really strong community of Mormons, and I thought that was kind of cool. Um, I really honor and respect my parents, and I think it's a really good background to come from. In that respect, and just my parents are honorable, good, hardworking people, and so I really am grateful in that respect to grow up in it. I
Mhm.
think those two things probably.
Nice. And then while growing up, was there anything that you were taught that didn't sit well with you, or did everything pretty much make sense when you were kind of in your, before teenage years?
I think everything kind of made sense.
Mhm.
I mean, it was all I ever knew was to be Mormon.
Mhm.
And it was put on all of these things in the church were put on a pedestal. The temple was like, oh, the most amazing thing you could ever, you know, be a part of. And getting married in the temple was super important. And getting baptized, all of those things were glamorized so much that when I went through them, kind of checked those boxes off, I thought, okay, yeah, this is just what I know.
And then how old were you when you decided to go on a mission, and what led you to that decision?
I I was 19 years old, so that's the old age. The old age requirements used to be 19 when I was in high school, and you know, I don't know how much I want to interject here of some family drama, but I'm gonna be open about this because I think it's important to the story. Um, Me and my wife got engaged at 18. So before I went on a mission, me and my wife were actually engaged and we were going to get married. And I felt a ton of pressure from my parents to go. I also believed in this faith system wholeheartedly. And, that put pressure on me to go. I knew that it was a commandment from God. And so that put pressure on me to go. And so I feel that there was a lot of stress and pressure that was put on as a result of like just how I grew up. And even though I wanted to get married at the time, which sounds pretty darn young, I just I kind of felt that pressure pushing me to go on a mission
Mhm.
instead. So I did it, I think, to appeal to my parents and appeal to what I've been taught and appeal to my religion, really.
Mhm. And what year did you fill out your papers to go on a mission?
So I believe I served from '07 to '09. I
Okay.
think it was June of '07 to June of '09. Yep.
And at this point, what kind of was the perspective of young men like yourself who did not serve a mission?
I
Yeah.
think it would have been seen as a black mark, like not fully, it's a commandment. So I mean, that's how it was always pitched to me. Like you can break the commandments of God and not go, or which like you know, it's for a religion that you believe in, you know, I don't know. I feel like there's maybe a little bit of like coercion that goes into that. But you know, you can break the commandments and offend God and not give back, you know, and be selfish, right? And so I think a lot of that language made me feel, I don't want to say like I didn't have a choice, but it definitely encouraged me, strongly encouraged me to go.
And at this point, kind of like right before you go on your mission, how did you view non-LDS Christians?
I think I viewed them as misguided, obviously, right? I mean, I think I viewed them in the sense that I would say, and Paul, I really hope you're not one of those offended types. But I viewed them to be like they're trying to do something, but it's just not right. It's not what God, as I viewed it, had revealed, the restoration of the gospel. Like what they're doing is probably nice and it's probably okay for them and gives them some sense of false security, but it's not meaningful to God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know if I could be more direct on that one, but
Yeah. No, yeah, no, I appreciate that. Where did you end up serving for 2 years?
so I served in the Missouri St. Louis mission.
Okay. That's right. And
So
then,
we covered parts of Missouri and Illinois. Yeah.
oh, okay. And if you can look back, were there any highlights that you could remember about your mission? Some things that you enjoyed about it?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to give the typical missionary answer. I did love the people. So like I loved Mormons, non-Mormons, anyone we came in contact with, like I like that interaction. Like I like just getting to know people and spreading the gospel. I was very outspoken about my beliefs and how I felt and in proclaiming the gospel. Everyone says they worked really hard. I worked really hard. I mean, I really was.
Mhm.
I was a dog. Like I didn't take a break from 19 to 21. I just I was like, I'm here. I would rather be married, but if I'm here, I'm going to make the best of it and I'm going to work super hard and try, to proclaim the gospel how I knew it, and do that. So,
Mm-hmm. And then conversely, were there a few hardships? I mean, you mentioned that you'd rather be married. Were there any other kind of like hardships or discouraging experiences that you went through while on your mission?
yeah, I thought that at times, like, I I guess I'm a person where I like kind of allies. And I felt like sometimes the members would kind of huck us under the bus a little bit.
Hmm.
I remember one time I was meeting with like a member and they just like really like ripped into me. And I was just like, whoa, like that's pretty harsh, like really, really harsh. And I remember even now I think about it, I'm kind of like, oh, why was she like she so aggressive towards me? And I think just like with mature, like as you get older, I shouldn't say maturity, but as I get older, I should have just like, I mean, I did walk away. I'm a missionary. I'm not going to say anything, but I should have mentally also given her, a little bit of grace. And yeah, just I think people can be kind of rude, and I like to get along with people, and I like to do that. Um, I kind of understood it from the non-Mormons being maybe not very happy with us, but I always thought that the Mormons would kind of take me in. The people, my people, right, would kind of be a little nicer. So I did have that, and I can't say that that's everyone, but I did have a few experiences where I felt like people were kind of harsh.
Are these non-members that were being harsh with you or members?
No members, yeah.
And you mentioned a woman was kind of getting on you about something. Are you comfortable sharing what you did wrong?
Yeah, it's kind of silly. I was dressed like really pretty nice, like really nice. Like I was wearing Argyle sweater. I had a really nice Movado watch, and she just she just she thought that I was like a total snob, and I was like, I don't know what to say. And she's like, and I'm pretty sure she called me a prick, and I'm just like, what? Like, where is this coming? And hey Paul, maybe you're gonna edit that. I don't know. But I just was kind of like I'm here like as kind of a rest, like and as a refuge from like going out, and people don't really like the fact that I'm knocking on their door. And so I think that I think that because I kind of had that guard down, when you go knock on doors, I mean, people are going to tell you you're going to hell. People are going to tell you like all sorts of stuff, but you kind of have this shell that you've developed as a missionary. I think when you're around members, you kind of drop that shell. You drop that like, oh, this is a safe place. It's like being at home, in your home. Like you feel like it's a safe place. Um, and so, yeah, I think as somebody who really doesn't get offended by things, it did hurt that I had kind of had my guard down and had people kind of be rude to me. Um, she wasn't the only one, but that was like the one that really sticks out in my mind of people kind of being harsh and me thinking,
Hmm.
wow, like I'm a volunteer who's like trying really hard to make this work and trying really hard to be a good missionary. So
Real quick, if you would like to partner with me and help get the word out about this ministry, you can do that by simply clicking that like and subscribe button. It really does make a big difference. Thank you so much for your support. Yeah. Uh, so you mentioned you got told a fair amount that you were going to hell. And so do you feel like you got, would you say, bashed by evangelicals a fair amount while you were on your mission?
I wouldn't say it was every day, but it was like maybe once a month. And this is the thing about being told I'm going to hell. Okay. I was told that in high school. Like I was told that as a missionary. I've been told that as an adult. Like it doesn't it doesn't really affect me because you over time you kind of become inoculated to this idea that other people under they understand your religion so well that they can say, hey, you're going to hell. Like you've heard it so much, maybe the first time it jarred you, but over time you just kind of maybe roll your eyes to it or don't take it as seriously. So
Mhm. Did you ever happen to come across any like evangelicals or Bible-based Christians that were actually kind to you?
oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we
Yeah.
had yeah, which I guess we'll kind of converse that like with members, my guard is down, and with people who are pastors or whatever, my guard initially it goes way up, right? How I want to shelter myself. And I remember there was a pastor that invited us into his home, super nice guy, like really nice guy. And this was down in Missouri, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I met a lot of good moral Christian people while I was on the mission that I tried to preach to. I also met some who wanted to who wanted to, bash with me and do that. And, in a way, I respect their conviction. I mean, I have, and had a lot of conviction when I was out on a mission. So I can kind of tip my cap in that way that they are passionate about their beliefs.
Hmm.
So
When looking back, would you kind of just to summarize your mission experience, would you say that you had a successful mission and you returned honorably and whatnot?
yeah, yeah, I would say it was successful. Um, I would say that for what the church designates as successful, I would say I was a successful missionary. Um, in that respect, and returned home and started my life.
Yeah. On that note, I've heard a number of times that it can sometimes be difficult for missionaries to return home after being in a atmosphere where there's so much structure and kind of being told what to do at what time of the day, going from that atmosphere to home where, hey, you actually can, you don't have a full schedule anymore. It's a much more loose, relaxed environment. Sometimes it's a difficult transition going from one super structured atmosphere to a relaxed atmosphere where but in your case, I'm sure you were excited to see your fiance, and it probably wasn't too difficult for you to get settled back in, or
Yeah, it was actually, I literally went from having a missionary companion to having a, lifelong companion. So 2 weeks later, we got married after I got home. So it was not a long, drawn out process. And then, yeah, after we got married, moved in together. It was a pretty easy transition for me. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so you return home from your mission, you marry your sweetheart, everything is going as planned. Are you able to kind of pinpoint one or two things that caused your understanding and faith in the LDS church to change?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I would say this, that I was hardcore in as an adult. So we didn't just get married and stop going to church. I was the early morning seminary teacher in my early 20s. I served in the elders quorum presidency, young men's presidency when they used to have that. I guess I served in the elders quorum multiple times. I was the gospel doctrine teacher, which is like the teacher over all the adults for Sunday school. So I had a lot of callings in the church that were pretty um, labor and time intensive. I mean, early morning seminary, every single day I was teaching a lesson, and during the school year. And I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed talking with people and talking to them about my faith and teaching and doing that. So I was very heavy into it, and an active adult um, in my ward, and fully believing. So wearing garments, I was the whole thing. Like, if you think about people who are really dedicated, like I was really dedicated to the church. Um, and I'll fast forward to kind of when my faith crisis happened. I was I was I buy property. That's my job, and I renovate different properties. So I bought a commercial piece of property about, well, down south of you, down by Olympia, Washington, so south of Seattle, which is about an hour and a half's journey from my house here. And so I decided to live on site and do that. And so while I'm down there, you can only work like realistically, you can only work like 14 hours a day. Okay. So I'm down there like working, these 14-hour days. And what's weird is I seem to have way more time working a 14-hour day and then coming home to like my little apartment there. I still had a couple hours a day. So I would like read in the LDS Tools app, different stuff, and prepare for my lessons. At the time, I was teaching Sunday school to high school kids. And so I'd prepare for my lessons and do all of that. And I remember reading through some quotes and just feeling like, gosh, that's not the full like truth. Like, that's not. And it wasn't a big, like, what I was reading was not really a big deal, but it was just like, man, I'm going to explore this a little bit more. And what I want people to understand is the content is really controlled inside the Mormon church. Like, you would never, even my podcast, you would consider that to be anti-Mormon, right? If it does not fully align with what the church tells you should be reading, it can be pretty gray if you should be reading it, right? And so I remember researching this, and I think what crushed my faith was I transitioned from going from the LDS Tools app and everything that was on there, so that would be like gospel or manuals, the Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants, the Bible, and then LDS Talks. So when you go from that, then I started to try to explain the questions I had with apologetics, like Mormon apologetics, like Fair LDS, and like other things. There's other people that create Mormon apologetics. And I think that's really when my faith really started to fall apart, is because the answers were so bad. Like they were so nonsensical. But I would read them and I would just say like somebody is definitely lying to me. Like this, if this is the best answer that we have, and the problem with those sites is your question is not localized, like the questions that I had. So you go down these bunny trails of like, oh, well, this is another thing. And then, oh, Joseph Smith did this. And then, oh, polygamy looked like this. And so I think that's really what crushed my faith the most, was like reading these apologetic websites that were not giving like what you could tell is real, truthful answers. They just, when I read them, I was like, this is not somebody being honest. And that was my takeaway from it. So I think after that, I stumbled on the CES letter, which was really like kind of the final nail in the coffin for me. And this all happened really fast because on the internet, things move really fast. But I'm reading over and I honestly thought the CES letter was from the Church Education System, CES. And I thought that it would actually answer some of my questions initially. Like there was a lot of confusion on what it actually was, which is kind of funny looking back. I mean, when I opened it up, like the first page, I was like, oh yeah, this is not promoting the church. But I didn't go into it like, oh, I'm going to read the thing that people have told me not to read, because I never heard of it. I just never heard of, it before. And I thought it was a church, like a official church publication, the first time I kind of clicked on it and started reading through it. So.
Okay, because the CES letter, that came out in like 2012, 2013, I believe. What year did you stumble across the CES letter?
I stumbled across CES letter in 2020 or 2020. Yeah, 2020. Yeah.
Okay. And if you could pick maybe one or two things that you found the most problematic, which things would you kind of put up there at the top of the list?
So I'm reading through the CES letter and my 4-time great-grandmother's name is in it. And I was like, I know this person. Like, this is not some... like I had a lot invested, and to have it kind of all be pulled out from underneath me was really, it was just so depressing. And by the time we hit like the end of the Old Testament, like my heart was already starting to shift and change. I felt God saying, Kai, like I want to be back in a relationship with you. And me just being like, nope. Like,